so for my demo, I'm going to stick with the same people I did before just because I know it's going to go faster. In your case, I'm asking that you're picking at least a different head or at least a different body. This technique is a little bit different, and in some cases, it tends to be a little bit easier. So I'm going to show you what I did by hiding the face. Ta-da! So what happened to the superhero? She disappeared. What part of her disappeared? Her facial features. So for this technique, we're going to use a lot of the eraser again and kind of slide another photo of a face underneath. So you'll notice in the former picture here that Glenn Close had these bangs on the side of her face. So this will also help us quite a bit in that case. Let me go back in my history and we'll get started a little bit. Okay. So like before, I'm going to download my picture off of Classroom, and you don't have to make a new canvas. You could just drag it in and build off of the image itself. What I need to worry about doing is making that big old hole in the face like we talked about before. So what tool should I use to make a big hole in her face? Eraser, exactly. Okay, so friendly reminder, we always want to use the soft eraser. Looks like it's got this kind of fade on it. And I'm going to start at that 100% opacity, meaning that the eraser is at like full max strength. Okay. So I'm going to start in the middle, like around the nose. And obviously she starts to fade out a little bit. And as I get farther to the outside, I want to lower my opacity, maybe like 50-ish. It's good. And I'm starting to fade out. I'm not going to totally lose all of the features to start. And that's okay. The nice part about this version is you can always go back in. I feel like I took off a little bit too much on the left, so I'm going to come back a little bit on that. I'm going to just start with that now. I know you could still see everything, but we'll go back in and we'll work with it. So I'm going to take my head photo right now. And thank you. And I'm going to attempt to move her over. Okay. What happened? Why did that little blurb come up saying it's a background layer? Why can't I move the background layer? It's locked, exactly. So if that happens, you could hit convert to a normal layer or hit the little padlock here. And we're going to drag Glenn over. Okay, there she is. Such a big picture. So let's shrink her down a little bit. Right now she is on top. Where should I put Glenn? Underneath. So I'm going to drag the layer underneath like that. Ooh, so creepy. Another thing I like to do, because sometimes I accidentally move my superhero, is I could click on my superhero and I can lock her temporarily so I don't shift her around. So if I click on the superhero and there's a little padlock above her there, I can temporarily lock her so I don't move around. All right. So what would be some smart ideas to make this look a lot more realistic? What should I start with? I could definitely rotate her. So I'm going to Control T on Glenn, our senior citizen. I'm going to rotate her a little bit, so that's a good start. What else should I do? Yeah, I agree. A little bigger. In case sometimes you may need to make one part wider and one part narrower, you could click this little link at the top, make sure it's unclicked. So that way you could stretch the face really wide if you need to, or narrow. As you can tell, I'm trying to somewhat match where the eyes are going right now. Somewhat. I know they're not going to perfectly match because everyone's face is a different shape. But not bad. And I'm going to make her face a little bit longer too. All right, not bad placement-wise. Okay, so now that I have Glenn placed a little bit, I can go back in and I can do a little bit more erasing without being too afraid. So I'll just click on the superhero layer and unlock her by clicking my padlock, and I'm back in. I think I'm going to lower my opacity to like the 20-ish range, just so I don't erase too much stuff. And as you can tell, I don't really have to go to like the forehead area. Just working on the face a little bit. So it depends on your superhero. Sometimes I feel like in this case that Glenn's mouth is a little kind of stretched out. So we're going to select Glenn, and I'm going to use my warp tool. So if you remember, that was like that tic-tac-toe board that showed up when you want to adjust the shape of something, like we did with the emojis. So when I transform and I click the little windshield wiper at the top here, I could go in and I could ever so slightly scooch some of these lines. So let me start in the middle because that's where the face is. I'm going to try and taper in her like lips a little bit. And maybe I want to pull out a little bit here and spread the width of her eyes. So I can make some more adjustments that way, which is kind of helpful too. It's very slight, but helps quite a bit. What did I do towards the end to make sure that I got some kind of like cohesiveness with the skin tones? Hue saturation, perfect. So fun fact, a shortcut for hue saturation is Control U. And then I could go in, and we talked about how like Marvel had this like really nice yellowy glow, like sunlight glow on her. So I'm going to try and make Glenn a little bit more like she's got that yellowy sun glow. Maybe up the saturation a little bit because she's got this like intense tan. I think the lighting's pretty, I think it's pretty good. Cool. And friendly reminder, if I wanted to make a little part of her face darker for a shadow, what could I use? What tool was that? Burn tool, like burning your toast, okay? So I'll burn a little bit on the Glenn layer just to help match that shadow a little bit. Very light. Okay. So not too bad at all. We didn't have to worry about all those problems with like her hair bangs hanging in her face. So this technique was really great for that, which was nice. Any other questions coming to mind? One other thing I'll just mention before you go. Don't forget there's your dodge tool if you'd like to make a little part lighter. That's quite a bit, but just so you got a little bit of idea of, oh, that was our burn. So if I want to go in and make a little part a little lighter, like there's a little light over here, I can do that a little bit too. So, any questions so far? Okay. You have the full period today. You'll get the full period next time I see you, which Mondays B, Tuesdays C. So you'll have the full period next time too, and then we will take it from there. I'm going to post the video in a few minutes. And are there any questions before we get rolling?